Hail, hail! The Celts are here, and what the hell do we care that we're an hour and a bit late or whatever? It's just another one of those ones. We're here for the Thursday night, the Celtic Supporters Club, the Sorare Scsc. I am Quinny, and I'm joined as always by my co-host McBride Ace. McBride, good to see you, my man. Hail, hail!
Yeah, I was on time, just not chucking you under a bus or anything there, Quinny, but I definitely was on time tonight.
Totally on me, totally on me. I booked one too many things today, and then as soon as one thing goes a wee bit over or a wee bit behind schedule, there's just that domino effect, and I ended up getting dragged into being dad taxi. Everything was that held up. So, yeah, battle stations for me on a Thursday. Nothing too new there, is there? But last time we were on, mate, I was going to say we're chatting about this Cagliari thing first of all. So I guess we'll kind of bat that around. But last time we were on, we were previewing the game last week. It's the first time I've got a chance to properly see and speak to you since we beat St Mirren. If we want to say we beat them, we got the victory and the 3 points. Thoughts, feelings, kind of main takeaways or anything like that as we get rolled into it tonight?
I thought you'd get a job in the recruitment team there, Quinny. You were that late. I suppose dominated the game. I felt as if we could have scored a couple of goals. Like they didn't really pose any threat, and Nygren's the one that's hit the bar. Like goalkeeper saved it, and just kind of one of those days. But I think after Aberdeen sort of did that in the cup final and they sat in and just frustrated us and things, you'll probably see that tactic happening quite a lot, obviously, this season. But yeah, just across the board, okay, but you just sort of the lack of the sort of cutting edge in the final third just came home to roost already, didn't it? And there's going to be a lot of games coming up soon, so I feel as if we really need to get our finger out and actually get some business done. And not wishing to speak of the other half of the city, etc., but I actually subjected myself to watching that game the other night, and they bought somebody, thrown them straight in, and obviously he made an immediate impact. So you just wonder, sometimes, what's actually going on and why we can't do that. I don't get it. So it is a wee bit confusing, but obviously we're talking about the performance, but it links into obviously how we've left ourselves a bit short by the looks of it in terms of those attacking options, particularly obviously in the wide positions. So
yeah, it was kind of proof in the pudding thing for all of us, I think, wasn't it, coming into the game? It was the kind of main talking points was the lack of attacking threat, really. You compare it to the front three we had last year, which we spent a bit of time on last week, the downgrade is massive, and that was kind of there for all to see. Celts are here. We managed to get a ticket for the game, so I was there live in person, which was good fun at the last minute. Get to see everything, and I do agree there was a lack of attacking threat, but especially being at the game, I'm really glad I was there to see this kind of thing, because it's always harder to be confident about what you've seen on the TV because you're only getting a little bit, aren't you? But the midfield, I really liked how good it was in the first half. I thought Negren, Hatate, and McGregor. You know me pretty well, McBride, at this point. My main problem's always been the midfield don't play with each other. They get so far apart across the pitch, but they were actually in each other's shadow at times, and they actually could bounce the ball off one another and kind of make some different plays happen, which was great. But it didn't have anything to connect with. It kind of often went nowhere, or you're scraping a ball across the pitch and then Yang or Maeda were on their heels and wouldn't run, and then you're waiting for people to catch up with you. By the time your team catch up with you, the defense have kind of got into shape, and just kind of, it was a wee bit half-baked in that regard. But yeah, and like you say, and like I kind of mentioned before giving that to you there, we've been linked today to a boy from Cagliari who is not a winger. He's a left back, and with the chat around Inamura, the plan was for him to go out on loan, didn't make the match day squad against St Mirren last week. This feels like a real link. It's been reported wherever the guy's from. I forget if it's Slovakia or Ukraine or whatever, but it's been reported where the guy's from, and it's been reported in Italy. Concrete deal. Asking price is 6, and no bonus points for guessing. Celtic have bid half.
Under 3 million. We're not allowed to spend more than 3 million, otherwise it'll take about 2 months. I also I don't know if you've seen this as well, because I was doing my Sorare teams today, and I've got Jacob Bream, and he's down to 0% to start this weekend now as well. So apparently they've left him out with the transfer speculation. So maybe that's a positive for us. Maybe it's actually getting to the stage where we're a bit closer to getting that agreed. But it's just and I get that obviously we want to get value for money, and we got loads of value for money, for example, with Nygren. So sometimes there's good deals to be done, and you don't want to overpay and all that sort of stuff. So I do understand that. but there's a need to get people in. Like it's not talking about this sort of airy fairy stuff. Well, maybe if we sign that guy, he'll be worth 10 million. It's talking about actually we've got the manager coming out to the media and saying there's areas in the team that we need to strengthen because we've sold somebody, and also we've known about Jota's injury since last season as well. So there's no excuse for it. Like it's just like, how can you actually operate this slow when you've got all that money in the bank? And it like that's it's just baffling. It just smacks of there is some sort of inherent problem there. Like there's some sort of disconnect. You talked about the midfield not playing with each other. What is the actual issue at Celtic with signing players? Is it that their players have been presented to the manager and he's saying, I don't really want him because I want to aim for a better player? Is it that we've identified players and we can't actually close out the deals or we can't attract them? Or is it that somebody will not sign off on it? But there is a definite problem there, because like every single year we talk about how we can't sign players in January and other teams manage to get deals done when they really need to, or we'll talk about how we're all hanging about with our yellow ties on going, oh yeah, I think he'll be there. Remember when Engels signed? Remember I was like, I need to go to my bed here, and the guy was walking up and it was dark. You're like, how can, like, honestly, how can everything be left to so late in the window? It's crazy.
I've just managed to get the chat box on screen. Sorry for not having that up first and foremost. But there's a nice question comes in from Strangelove the Doctor. And when is the English Premier League registration window close? Registration rules. Not interested in that. Maximum of 28 players. No, let's change the rules to date. I thought that might just give us an article or something for this year. Registration date.
We're not get the deadline next week for like the actual Champions League playoff as well. Yeah. It's like, you know, like that's why not spend a few mil? Like, you need somebody for the squad, and also that's a game that's worth so much money. So we're not saying go and spend 20 million, but if Jacob Breams, they want 4 million or 5 million, like surely it's worth paying like an extra 500,000 or whatever to get the deal done and get the guy in, so that you've actually got that option there, or even just to lift the place or whatever for that that qualifying. Or I don't know. I mean, we've been lucky with the draw again, but that doesn't mean we're gonna win the tie, right? I mean, like the front three's not as good as when we beat Bratislava 5-1. I don't think so.
Adam Idah did score against Bratislava.
No, Quinny, but I mean, I get that, like, and there's a lot of chatter about Adam Idah and all that sort of stuff, and obviously does score goals, but and I get that, but so you were talking about how the midfield were playing together and stuff like that, but when you do that and then you're dragging teams about, or you finally get them out of position, you need maybe a bit of movement, a bit of cutting edge or whatever. Celtic did manage to create some chances for him. He was that one in the second half, he kind of brought it down and he smashed it and he's hit the post. So, you know, sometimes it can be difficult because you feel as if maybe he's put under extra pressure because of the price tag, and, you know, like this is his chance to sort of nail his place in the team. But as like, overall, in terms of being a footballer, like you look at, like, people just will cite like Kyogo's stats, right? But if you go to the Champions League games and you watch what we did against Leipzig, he wasn't just a stats guy. He was leading the press. He was the guy who was starting to harass the other team. And then, like, we scored that, I think it was the second goal, where we kind of boxed them in, and it was like a tactical thing. Like, we just boxed them in the corner, we won the ball, we moved it about, and then we scored. So like, it's not just in football just about scoring goals. It's about style of play and all that type of stuff. And I'm not saying he's not giving effort or whatever. He's just not that that type of player. So we need like somebody else who also will score 15 to 20 goals, because you're going to have 50, 55, 60 games, cup games, Champions League and all that type of stuff. So you need more than just Adam Idah in the first place, really, don't you? So, and Brendan never brought Yamada on because he's
reasons. Just because
he's going through one of those wee phases where, like, if the board says like black, he'll say white. It'll just be like, you just like contrary. Like I'm not playing in him. Your eyes look good in pre-season. I think I'll just send him out on loan. I want somebody else. Like I don't know. It's one of those, and it seems as if there's just, we talk about fans' discontent, but it doesn't seem as if actually everybody at the club's operating in harmony at the moment. And obviously, sometimes that can be the start of the overall discontent or the toxic stuff itself, really. So,
for sure. So yeah, kind of jury's out on that one for sure. I've just got the kind of tail of the tapes that we'd like to cover here on the channel for the boy Adam Obert. So as far as Serie A goes, this isn't really that bad. Obviously, he's an international for it is Slovakia. He's played a little bit for them as well, but fullbacks, we generally do see some worse performances because they just generally lose the ball quite a lot, throw-ins and goal kicks and free kicks that they concede, that sort of thing. So don't be too alarmed by the worst scores because it's not really unusual for fullbacks.
International scores look quite good, don't they?
Yeah, a couple of last man tackle or clearance off the line against Austria here, brought in a 97, big performance at the back. And another clearance off the line. So this is a guy that does defend. No two ways about that. Yeah, he does love a last man tackle and a clearance off the line, this guy. So fair enough. Certainly seems to have the physical attributes from the stuff I'd seen in terms of the link. He is very good internationally, isn't he? This is against Estonia, but again, all of his good performances really do seem to be for the national team rather than in Serie A. So Nations League, take that for what it's worth, I suppose. But whatever. Young guy, good prospect, and somebody said in the chat, Celtic won't pay $6 million for a backup, and I'm inclined to agree with that. But may I point you to Exhibit Austin Trusty, Exhibit A, who kind of in theory is a £6 million squad player, So I don't think it's totally out the realm of possibility unless you're totally convinced that Celtic believed Trusty would be like Vickers level for us. Maybe they did. I wasn't too sure when we signed him personally, but that's maybe because I'm a big Scales fan, but decent looking little guy, isn't he, for the most part? And you mentioned Bream. Yes, he's not projected to play this weekend. And if that's down to the transfer speculation stuff, then maybe there's a quiet bit of movement from Celtic. We've seen Oliver Antman transfer to the blue side of Glasgow. I don't know if you've seen. Yeah, he'd have played in that game if you watched them the other night. He got a couple of assists, did he not? How did he look?
Do I really need to be honest?
Good. Was he all right?
It looked really good. Really good. I mean, quick. And then when he actually got on the end of it, like his delivery and stuff into the box, really good. He won a penalty as well. So I mean, like, I don't. I injured. Yeah, I've heard that he wasn't injured yesterday. He wasn't injured yesterday. So because he was 90% playing all the projections and everything until yesterday, and now he's always getting a niggle. But like, it sounds like it's transfer related, to be honest. I'm a wee bit concerned overall about just like obviously the gaps like going to close a wee bit as well, but also like we've fallen back a wee bit, so sometimes like you just say we'll just look after ourselves and stay like positive and move forward or whatever, but like I don't feel as if at the moment we're really like any better off than last season. And what also confuses me is if we really want a winger and we've went to go ahead Eagles, why did we not buy him? Like I don't. I mean, he's
£3 million, the magic number.
I'll tell you what, he's a significantly better player than Yang. So, and I like Yang. I think that there's the makings of a player in there, but no real like obviously consistency in the moment in terms of his performances. Although that could have been labelled at Kuhn at times as well. But I don't really get that. I don't know what's going on with the sort of scouting side. But Jacob Bream is a really good player as well. So, the other issue is if we're low balling and say we want 2.5 or 3, they're just going to go look at what we got for him. like sorry, but like yeah, if that's what you want to do, then you can just sort of get lost type thing. So that's the issue. And some of the other links have kind of come and gone. Guys like Balaguisha, etc. I do think we do need a left back. I mean, obviously, like I think the game where Tierney get cramp, Scales moved to left back and Trusty come in. See some of the chat saying Bream a better winger than Antman. Well, Bream, I think you like started to play more in the wing, and then I think like mostly starter last season he was playing more as a sort of central like attacking midfielder. So he's a different type of player. So it might be a profile that we're looking for. It might not be, rather than somebody who's got a bit of pace and goes out wide. We're looking for guys who are more good on the ball, if that makes sense. Because obviously Nygren's come in with that profile, and like he has added something. If he's going to play in the midfield, I think that will address some of the stuff regarding like creativity. But we need to address the like, what are Aberdeen going to do? Right, we'll go to Aberdeen, and they'll probably just sit in, even though they're at home. They'll just say, "Yeah, you can break us down." So.
Yeah, because this Aberdeen game is going to be tough. I was saying in the aftermath of the game, I think this Aberdeen match will tell us what Rodgers plans to do for the qualifiers. We add into the conversation as well, of course, the first leg happened with Bratislava and Kiria, and Kiria are actually winning 1-0. So we might actually be in for a long haul flight to Kazakhstan to get ourselves into the Champions League. Which maybe that's easier or harder. Really depends on your point of view, I suppose, on conditions and all the rest of it. But yeah, make no mistake about it. Aberdeen have really built themselves on. I expect, I guess we're kind of segueing into the game, but I do think overall they'll be disappointed they dropped points the way they did to Hearts Monday night on the telly. They're quite the, not a derby, but certainly like who could be best of the rest kind of match to start the season off went against them. And they're at home against us now, having obviously getting that bit of confidence from the cup final or whatever. But yeah, I can imagine him playing that game of two halves stuff with us, where the first half it's basically the team that's projected and it's keep the game tight, try and nick one, get in their faces, press them, try and buy a yellow card where you can. And then maybe at half time or later in the match, he's got 2 or 3 subs that he plans and tries to catch his cold, maybe when Tierney goes off or when something else happens or whatever. So I think it's a game where you need the squad, you need the full 90 minutes to be at the tippy top level, really.
I actually watched that Hearts and Aberdeen game as well, and I think one of the good things about the SPFL coming back in the sort of big, EPL or whatever's not back yet, at least you get a bit a Sunday game and a Monday night football and stuff like that. I thought Aberdeen were overall pretty poor. I mean, I thought Hearts were okay. I wouldn't say there was like loads of quality or whatever in there, but they were well deserving in terms of like winning the game. Some interesting stuff in terms of like guys like Braga and things that they've signed. So there's obviously you can see there's a wee bit of sort of quality with those guys, even though they've come from like sort of lower leagues or nobody really sort of heard of them. The big guy that Aberdeen signed up front, so he actually got a few chances and he looks like an utter donkey. Like horrendous, just looks absolutely terrible. Honestly, he got a chance
or whatever.
Was it Tengier? I can't remember. No, the other guy, the guy who came from Australia, he was taking all the set pieces and stuff like that, Milosevic or whatever, and he actually looked okay. I think like he'll be a good signing, but they put a guy up front, Yengi. Milanovic looked pretty decent, but Yengi looked like an utter donkey. Like just like you get 2 like pretty much gilt-edged chances within the 6-yard box, and then when he hit the ball that way and it went that way type thing, just like he's a physical presence, but it doesn't look as if he's got any real like ability about him. So I think like with Aberdeen like selling on a few of the guys, like the guy Glay went to Turkey, I think. So
yep.
Like I think they might actually struggle to score some goals. So if that's the type of guy who they start against us, I'm not, touch wood, but I'm not really as concerned about the counter-attack again. If they sit in, he's more a guy who's like strong and maybe can hold the ball in and stuff like that. But they don't seem to have that sort of pace that they had, in the wide areas and stuff when they Glay and the counter-attack and stuff. So we'll probably just roll out Liam Scales and stuff again and just be camped in their half and be like batting our heads against the brick wall for about 30 minutes trying to create chances and stuff like that. But I wasn't really that impressed by Aberdeen at all. And we gave them a few doings last season too. So, I think before the cup final we'd taken 5 off them twice or something, didn't we? So I think it'll be they'll play that game plan again. And I think like everybody was laughing about Tony Bloom and everything because he was talking about can we push Celtic this season and stuff. But I mean the guys come in with a plan, right? And like they're signing guys who people are turning their nose up. Oh, that guy played in Estonia and stuff. And then like you go and you find the guys at Union St Gilles who came from Estonia and now they're worth like €7 and €8 million and stuff, because they've given them a platform to play in Belgium and Europe and things. So I think that eventually they will put up a good challenge to Celtic and Rangers. Whether or not happens this season, obviously, I don't know, but that's going to be like a tough away game and everything for this season for everybody in the league, because they do have a few good players and stuff there now. So it's I think it's going to be quite an exciting season, actually. I don't know if that really suits us or not, whether like exciting's like good, but we need to be on it here. Like, we need to there's a few teams that are kind of up in their game a wee bit, and we're not going to get away with being complacent. I think that's the overall feeling I've got.
How much egg will be on the Celtic board's face if Tony Bloom, with a seed capital starting point of £9 million, does win the league within 10 years? Like, that would be... How close would that be to us, like, getting to a Champions League final? Maybe not winning it, but getting to some sort of monument in terms of scale and everything, It's probably not that far removed, is it?
Yeah.
We're starting with 100 million,
I know, but we won't spend it. See, the thing is, he's got money there, and also that might be his initial amount of money, but that's not to say that if they get to the stage where they get into Europe or whatever, that he might not spend more, because he knows how to lay out a plan and then execute on a plan. Because what really impressed me about him is, like, they were asking about things like that, and he started talking about the coefficient and how many people get into Europe and what the route would be and everything. So he's not just went into Hearts and thought, I want to win the league. He started looking at, how do I get into the Champions League? How do I get into the Europa League? What's the coefficient like? How many teams do we need in there? How's this all going to come together? So he's actually seen a route to the bigger, the bigger money and stuff like that. He's not just talking about maybe winning a cup or something. He's wanting to go that way. So he's a clever guy, and bringing him in and the analytics and stuff that they've got and the decision making they've got and how they organise things. Like, if you gave the current Celtic board and the setup, the structure, 3 times the amount of money as Tony Bloom, I would back Tony Bloom over a distance. But, obviously the advantage we've got is we've run the club well for a while and we've built that up. But it might just be, I don't know. Just sometimes, like, you feel like obviously they've done a reasonable job, obviously, with its success and building up all the money, getting Brendan Rodgers back. We were a bit better in the Champions League next season. But those people who get you to that stage might not be the people who want to actually take you on further or to the next level. Does that make sense? Like, you can't just say, well, everything's all brilliant and this is the blueprint for the next 5 years. You've got to be on it, right? You've got to be, like, thinking ahead and still planning. So there's just a disbelief in the fans about what is the actual plan here. Are we just happy that that's the best we can do, and we'll just, if somebody comes in for the players, we'll just sell them and just say, well, that's fine, that's Yang's there, and he's the next guy in line, and we'll see if he scores goals this season, and if he doesn't, well, I've still won loads of trebles, and coefficients hammered anyway, we'll not get in next season. Like, I don't know. It's just smacks a bit of complacency. That's the way I feel about it. Like, spend a bit of money and, try to go on to the next level, whatever that is. Just try, not just be sitting there going, yeah, we'll just buy a few guys at 250,000 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I can definitely see Bloom putting more money in as time goes on or whatever. But I also think, like, I've seen reports today that Man United have went after Baleba. This is like the latest one they've got off the blooming supply chain, and he's at 90 million. They've already sold Caicedo for like 90 million. They sold Suma for like 80, 70 million. So see if Hearts get a guy like that. Hearts could sell a guy for a price like that. Bloom knows the market. He knows where to hold the price. He knows what sort of players go for those types of prices. So as much as, like, of course, they could have access to more money later, I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 3 years, like, their transfer turnover could just explode in a window, where they get 3 or 4 guys out and raise like 70 million or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me, Which is why I mentioned the seed amount, because I think you'll play that kind of rolling, compounding kind of gains effect into the team as well,
Yeah, I think what they'll maybe do is, like, you've seen, like, at times where they move, like, Dennis Undav from GOAS to Brighton. So, like, if Baleba moves on and Hearts bring in a defensive midfield and the guy's looking really good and he's like a standout in the SPFL, people will say Hearts will not get 15 million for a player. But you'll pay 15 million from Brighton. because he knows that if that guy goes down there and starts playing well in the English Premier League, then automatically the value goes up. And plus, that helps his situation because he's then obviously started to moneyball his way into, having a budget. Because he'll look at that and think, well, I've got a couple of guys here for like 2 million each and stuff like that, and now I can buy another 5 guys for 2 million each, and I can, because like Gio was like the guys they've sold for 11, 15 million and stuff. Ivanovic went for 20 million. He was about 4 million euros, 3 million. That's sort of price range we are trying to operate in just now. Promise David was like signed from like that same league that they've just signed the guy Kabori up front from, and has like similar stats. So that guy could be the next Promise David or whatever. And it's just, it's good to see like there's going to be some sort of other challenge in Scotland, but I think like it highlights the sort of overall problems with like the structure of what we're doing. We've got 2 teams behind us who have got less money, and they can go and do deals, and we can't seem to. Well, we are signing people. The board might say we've signed 5 or 6 guys, but we've not actually signed guys in the areas that we were needing. Like, did we need Callum Osmond? I'm sure he might be a good signing, and okay, we've signed him, but he doesn't actually improve the first team squad at the moment, I don't think. So, like, I'm not counting guys like that as like signings. Do you know what I mean? Like, we want somebody to come in and actually be able to play in the team.
I'm with you. That's the team on screen for anyone that's not up to speed with where we're at yet. 2 grey dots on the way out, hopefully, but they're not quite there yet. Still kind of left behind, but yeah, I'm with you, mate. And I hope that's the main thing more than anything, is it just is a wake-up call reality check for Celtic, because us, Huddle Breakdown, and a lot of other Celtic channels can talk about Bruges and Tony Bloom clubs and all these other teams that we see doing way better with less than us, They don't sell the shirts we sell. They don't sell the merch that we sell. They don't sell the season tickets we sell. They don't have the global appeal fan base that we have. And they are able to buy and sell players at a much more successful rate and progress beyond their own league in a lot of ways, Coming into the weekend, it's a nice weekend, a segue for us, I suppose, because we've just put the team depth on screen there. And last week, we were kind of opposed on one position. And I think coming into this game, I might be on your wavelength from last week, maybe coming into this one. Someone in the chat has already mentioned it. But when it comes to, let's start with defence, first of all, right? Do we see any change to last week? I'm not convinced that we do. I think Rodgers that's the back four now,
I think like Scales actually had a pretty good game. So
yeah,
I don't, obviously Trusty came on, but that was more because Tierney had cramps. So, and obviously the lad who's come in, I don't know, it just kind of like feels as if he's coming in there to be one of the numbers. Like, maybe he'll be good, maybe he'll prove us all wrong, and he'll end up partnering, CCV or whatever. But it feels as if he's coming in as one of the centre backs. It's not like, yeah, this guy's going to come in and he's going to be first choice type thing. So I think it's going to be Carter Vickers and Scales for now in this type of game. Back four seems like quite settled if that's choices made for last weekend. And then you were right. So you were right on the selection. But did you hear the comments on Nygren and Engels, and he was talking about how good Engels was when he came on, and how like when he was playing Nygren there, it was like a tactical thing because of the low block in the home game and the way he wanted to play and stuff like that. And I'd be quite surprised if Engels doesn't start against Aberdeen, to be honest. So
I think so too, because I think like being at the game, like Engels didn't do much in the match, but soon he came on, he had a good energy. Like you could, it was like, yeah, it's one of those ones you can just it just seemed to be alive, just seemed to be up for it, quite awake to the whole game. It's the only way I can kind of describe it, but I wouldn't be surprised, and that's what I'm saying. I'm kind of coming along to your wavelength that I think that although I don't want to see the midfield go back and do what we've seen last year, where it's like just Tati goes out the left, Engels goes out the right, and McGregor just gets into the middle of all the other players to circulate the ball. I would hope that if we do this, because if it is going to be Nygren then that plays out wide, like we've seen with Forrest and Yang, he's probably going to be on the line pushing the defence for the most part. But where Yang and Forrest, like if you remember most of their good plays at the weekend, it was like driving in here. You know, Yang had 1 or 2 of them. Forrest did it about 4 or 5 times. And Negren, like coming back into this area from a wide player, that might be a part of the link-up that we missed last week, because Idah was always on the last man pushing the defence. Dyson was doing something similar on this side, and then we had Yang or Forrest. And just had this big gap between between midfield and attack. So if we are going to have Engels in here, Hitati, I hope it's a wee bit closer together. Pitorgi's obviously not as big as Celtic Park, but I hope it feels a wee bit more like there's 4 of them in there, you know?
I think that would make sense, because like Alistair Johnson's actually pretty good at that overlapping type stuff. I mean, he's like in Sorare, like smashed it out of the park, 100 out of 100 last weekend. Just in terms of like, you know, getting forward and getting balls into the box, winning duels, all that type of stuff. So like that really does suit him. And also I think like the reason that would work well is when we did have Greg Taylor in there, so he's not even getting a game for PAOK, by the way, but it's another thing. Tierney doesn't really like come inside and do that midfield stuff like Taylor did. So Tierney was more going down the wing. So if you do what you're describing there, Nygren coming inside actually helps in the middle of the park, because often when we were playing home games, Greg Taylor would see like where Hitati is there, you would see Greg Taylor popping up in amongst there. He was almost playing like as a midfielder, right? Whereas Tierney was more like sort of defaulting to like dropping the shoulder, going down the wing and stuff like that. And he got a few good balls into Adam Idah, etc. He got the header on it, didn't work. I think it was one that rebounded. Nygren came in, hit the bar. You know, so it worked. So that's how I would line it up. I would actually play Idah, but he'll not do that, I don't think, until he's got his transfer targets in. This guy actually was pretty good. And I think he's kind of, with Idah, he said that you know, this was going to be a big season for him. So it's almost as if he's bigging him up to say, right, you're the main man now, like, you know, go and show us what you can do or whatever in there. But last weekend was, I'd say, probably quite frustrating for him. So
I'd like to see Idah as well. I just kind of cleaned up the rest of the pitches you were talking through it, because it's not good. If we do think Engels is playing, there's no room for Yang or Forrest to start. Now, it's probably a good thing for the bench if we need to keep things kind of up in the ante as the game goes on. If Aberdeen makes some substitutions through the match, you know, having guys with legs, which both of them have, is more useful from the bench, you would probably argue, than from the start. So I like that thought. And really, after last week, Brendan was quite happy in all of his kind of summarization of the match. It's hard to imagine he drops Idah for Yamada, who got no minutes, and it's hard to imagine Quinny starts. So I think that formula just kind of works itself out there. But yeah,
Quinny was quite good the last time we were at Aberdeen, wasn't he? Did he not? I think it was obviously the end of the season, and so he played quite well that day from memory. So
totally. And we're mentioning Aberdeen. It wouldn't be a Scsc show without us having a look at the opposition we've got. I'm not too sure what their goalie wears these days. I'll just put him in blue.
Mitov.
And we've got Mitov, and we've got wrong button. Where's red? There we go. So we've got a projected team here. We've got Jensen back in at right back, who played against us a fair amount of times last season. I think he was a January signing, so he either came in for any games we had second half of the season. We've got the boy Noster. Again, I'm not too sure if he's been good against us or if he's been one of those calamity players alongside Jack Milne. And then left back is to be Shinnie, it looks like.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, that's a bit of a sign if they are going to play Shinnie out here that they fancy Shinnie versus Forrest or Shinnie versus Yang. And if it is Negren, that will be I think that will be a wee chess piece in our favour, you know. We've got Paul Vara in the engine room next to Clarkson. Paul Vara's much more of a kind of hard-hitting midfielder. I wouldn't say he's quite in that Shinnie or Nielsen kind of role of being like a hack master or whatever, but it's a guy that's kind of physically present in the game and will kind of always press and try and turn the ball over. Clarkson, as we know, is a bit more playmakery. And then you were talking about pace earlier on. They're expecting to start Shaden Morris, who does have pace, is normally really effective off the bench against us. But I think he'll be one of their main escapes from when we've got possession, as will Topi Kiskinen. Now, Kiskinen has played on the left and on the right against us, and he's been all right in flashes without ever being super amazing. But I don't think he's going to have a good time against Alistair Johnson or Kieran Tierney for that matter. And we've got probably our first sighting in the SPFL, McBride. I don't know if you played against Bayoshishi. Hopefully doesn't do anything against us. Did he play against Hearts?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, couple of nice touches, but Hearts were quite strong in the middle of the pitch. You know, obviously that's a position where they'll get like Cammy Devlin and stuff in there, and you know they were pretty strong in there. So he never really got any real sort of time on the ball to dictate the play, and I think that'll be the issue for him. I mean, I wonder whether they'll play him again or whether they'll just go for the lad Nielsen in there and just make it like a more difficult sort of midfield free to play against, because obviously Ochichi is the guy who might be able to unlock it going forward, but do they really fancy doing that? Like, or would they just camp in? Like, remember the game we won 1-0 up there? It was like the difficult weather and everything. I think Hatati scored the winner, so that night as well, they just basically just parked the bus at home. So
yeah, and then just try and spring out with like Guy and Majovsky and you know all the other kind of guys I've had in over the last few windows. It is just about keep it tight, break it up, tight and narrow. You know, the back four, you'll see them inside the box, and I think you'll even see it look like, you know, really tight at the back. And it's just with these guys with legs in the wide areas, can they get behind Tierney? Can they get behind AJ? And then this guy has got the task of bashing between the centre backs to get through.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we expect. I think like St St Mirren last week, people were saying, oh, they parked the bus and whatever. And I know they played a back five, but St Mirren is much more of a football match, even when they're defending. Whereas with Aberdeen, it is much more like, I don't want to call them anti-footballs. I don't think they're quite that far down the scale, but they're on that scale of anti-football. You know, they're somewhere not too far away from it, you know, where they don't mind a yellow card and just to make the game terrible to watch for an hour if they can.
Yeah. It's a game plan, you know, so like there we go. Like when we went away to Atlanta and the Champions League, we had to sort of sit in a bit and we had to be a bit more sort of pragmatic as we were discussing at the time, you know. So sometimes I suppose you've got to do that. But if you look at that, I forgot about Shaden Morris. Actually, Shaden Morris didn't start against Hearts, so I guess he's a guy who causes a bit of problems with his pace, and I think he scored at even when we won 5-1, he scored at Parkhead as well last season. So you could definitely see some arguments for him starting in that position and playing that sort of counter-attacking style. But I don't have any problem with Aberdeen doing that. If that's the way they want to play, that's fine. And we know obviously that that's going to happen quite a lot. And obviously that might be why we're looking at guys like Nygren, Jacob Bream, who obviously, you know, can play a bit of football in the middle of the pitch, unlock some doors, etc. I do still have some reservations about like Idah's movement. You know, I think he's got decent movement, but I don't think he's got the type of movement that like Kyogo had or that Dyson's got through the middle.
Johnny Kenny's movement was pretty sweet at the weekend, like in that in that sense that you're talking about. You know, like we'll kind of creep round the back of them and get round our side of the pitch if we've switched from the ball from left to right. You know, he's quite good at being on the move constantly, and Idah doesn't really stand still. But I'm just kind of highlighting what you're saying.
Yeah, the other guy we were linked with, who I don't know if there's much in it or not, was Clement Bischoff, and like he's been playing for Brøndby like left wing, and he's a cracking player. I mean, honestly, like that's the type of name I would like to see us kind of get involved with now.
Wonder Kid.
Oh, he's really good. I mean, honestly, like, you know, from us, like a lot of people maybe will not have heard of these names, but like us being on Sorare and being like around about it and the cards coming out and teams and players that people are interested in under 23. These are guys that as soon as you see the link, you recognize the name straight away, you know. He was there was a lot of talk of move to Brighton. It didn't really materialise at the time. I can't remember why. I think it was in January. There was talk of maybe even Brighton buying him and then loaning them back, and it didn't happen. So, but yeah, I mean, he would be a real good signing. So somebody like that would be great. I think they're looking for maybe 8 or 9 million euros or something for him. But if that's what they're looking for, I would definitely would pay it. Do you honestly, Quinny, do you think like that the board are like actually or the board and the manager sitting there going, rather than just buy somebody for 2 or 3 million, we'll wait and we'll see if we get through in the Champions League. I mean, I don't even know why that's a conversation when we've got so much money in the bank. Do you think actually there's some sort of methodology? That's the wrong word. Some sort of method there where they're actually thinking, we'll just see if we get through and then we'll push the boat out, because then we know what we can project for in terms of the Champions League income. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it?
It's so frustrating, but because I remember really being this level of frustrated probably before, around the kind of Kasper Schmeichel kind of time, I suppose. And there was maybe another situation where a transfer window where we expected some goalkeeper movement and we never got it. And the goalkeepers, it's even more pronounced that if you miss out on a target, there's not another one round the corner. They're not like buses, you know. Wingers, midfielders, defenders, we maybe don't feel the same way in that sense, but it feels very much like you've said there, like we're definitely waiting on chickens coming home to roost. We're not counting on any eggs until they hatch, you know. We're not doing any of that stuff, which is frustrating to say the least. But someone made a comment here talking about Bruges and Ange and being aggressive in the transfer window. And see, if we're not going to spend big, I mentioned this, I think, on the Wednesday video, then see if they say 6 million for Brahim, deal. You know, like at least just be like clinical with the price range we're in. You know, if we're not going to go and spend 15 million, 20, like fine, right? We can kind of get that a little bit longer. That day will come, but we will need to spend that type of money on players at some point, right? They can only delay it for so long. But fine, if we're going to stay in this price point, be aggressive, be decisive, get the guy you want, you know, and don't nickel and dime about it. You know, that's the big frustration I have for it.
Well, I mean, it's like, I remember reading a couple of the quotes of the Dutch guys responded, and that one of the guys just put up the clown things and said 3 million euros for one of the best players in the Eredivisie. And like that just kind of sums it up, right? It's like, you know, we're going over there and what's our bargaining position there? Yeah, he really wants to come to Celtic, and they go, but like, yeah, but this guy is one of the best young players in the Eredivisie. So you mentioned Bruges earlier, right? So this is what's happened with Bruges. So Jashari, who was really good against us at Parkhead, I thought he was excellent. So AC Milan have been trying to sign him for weeks, right? And Bruges have been trying to kind of say they're pushing the price up and all that type of stuff. I think they eventually get 35 million euros for him, which is absolutely brilliant for them. That is great. But whilst all that was going on, the next minute they went and they signed Stankovic from Inter Milan. Now, Stankovic used to play at Bruges. He was highly thought of. Inter Milan, I think, bought him when he was young. He went over there. He wasn't really getting many games or anything. But they went and they bought him for 10 million. So they announced him and he came in, and he's a central midfielder. So he was there, and they were still haggling with AC Milan. And then they sold Jashari. So basically, with all these qualifiers and stuff going on, because they're in Champions League qualifiers just now, they just beat Salzburg, and the winner plays Rangers or Pilsen. They actually went and signed somebody, then they sold Jashari. So how can we not operate like that? Like, they're a smaller turnover club than us. They don't have as much money in the bank as us. How can they do that and we can't do that? It's just like, it's a strong word, but it seems like a bit of incompetence in terms of how things are actually working. And that's, I think, what Celtic fans are really quite annoyed about. Is it that we are identifying good players and, you know, there's good options available, but we just can't get the deals done for whatever reason? Why can't we get them done? Well, I guess if we're, do you imagine somebody came to us and said, yeah, what to sign Idah just now? No, we're not selling Idah. We'll give you 6 million. Like, everybody would just laugh them out of Glasgow. You're just like, what? Do you think we're going to sell Idah for 6 million? You're having a laugh, and like, feels if the rumours and everything are true, that's the kind of situation we're leaving ourselves in. And obviously, you can't come out and talk about transfers, right? You know, people talk about communication. You can't come out and say, yeah, we're doing this or we're doing that. All that's confidential, so you can't give an update on transfers. But like because we're dithering so much, we're making ourselves into a bit of a actual laughing stock in terms of how other teams are closing out deals and we can't get those key targets or whatever in as far as we can see. So
yeah, amateur hours, what it feels like. And the one thing I'm trying to tell myself at times to kind of hold on to some sort of faith is maybe Celtic are just trying to, like, they're maybe trying to convince everyone in Europe that we're skint. Like, no, don't listen to that stuff. We actually don't have any money. Like they're maybe really trying to bluff super hard. Like, don't worry about the stock exchange numbers. They're not accurate. We've got no transfer fees. Sorry. That's the one thing I'm hoping. They're just trying to play some sort of Jedi mind trick on. No, we don't have money. This is not the money that you think we have.
Anyway, we're in a league now with Tony Bloom. Tony Bloom knew about the coefficient. He knew about how many teams could qualify next season. He knew about what stage they would be going into. He was talking about splitting the old firm at the top. He had all of that mapped out in his head when he was agreeing to put his money in. So, like, unless there's a lot of stupid football clubs out there, like Celtic are a public limited company. They make statements and stuff like that. The accounts are published. Like, it's not that hard. If Celtic come in and say we're going to offer you £3 million, that's high as we're going to go. Like, even if you're in Holland or whatever, just do some searches on the internet. You can see that Celtic have got money. There's even articles about how Celtic are quite well run in terms of actually been able to like have that model and stuff like that. So I don't think we're under the radar. That's what I'm saying. But
as you said, McBride, I took all of 4 seconds, right? I typed into Google Celtic finances, and this is what came up. 4 seconds it took, So yeah, you don't need to dig that hard, do you? To see Celtic have got a few bob in the bank.
Aye. And then if you're in a country that doesn't speak English, then you just hit Google Translate and it just translates it for you, and then that's all the information there. So I will not get away with that. I don't know. I mean, maybe like obviously they just feel as if the model is that you still want to get some sort of value for the money. Maybe we feel as if Trusty and Idah not really being value for money. I don't know, because like Trusty played in all the Champions League games and everything last season, and we got to the sort of later stage, or we got past the group, or the league. Sorry, not the group. Used to be the groups. So like Trusty's probably paid back a fair chunk of his transfer fee already, like with all that income we got in last season. So if we are looking at it that way, maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. But
yeah, I think so. And I picked up on this. I heard Juco James on Huddle Breakdown saying the same thing as well. But did you hear Rodgers' comment that I think the question was about Idah Engels and Trusty, and his comment was like they all contributed in the Champions League last year. He made a point of really giving them Champions League credit, really putting that in the bank for them. They get Champions League credit for the campaign last season. So don't discount that from them. Felt a bit defensive, felt a little bit of like self-justification for the players and the fees and everything. Did you hear that yourself or anything?
Yeah, I think I seen one of the sort of links to something like that as well. I don't know if it was probably appeared on like X somewhere. I get that. I mean, yeah, it does seem a wee bit like that, right? Like, yeah, I just think like, obviously not all transfers work out and not all recruitment can be absolutely brilliant, and there's other circumstances and things in it. But like sometimes when we go and we spend that 6 or 9 million, you just think there's some obviously better options out there for that. Maybe not the same type of player or whatever. I mean, obviously the one that frustrated us was Kvistgaarden. So Norwich sold Idah us for 9 million. We were heavily linked with Kvistgaarden. Quite a similar profile in terms of stats and everything to Kyogo. Never replaced Kyogo. Next minute, Kvistgaarden goes to Norwich, and all the links were all 12, 13 million euros and stuff. And they went for 7 million. And you're going, well, why could we not have done that deal? Like, Rodgers stood in front of the media in January and said, I want a striker in. Never signed a striker. So if we sign Yamada and we think he's a good fit for the 2 million or whatever for the replacement, that's okay, as long as you spend some money in the other positions that you need to fill out. So I don't know.
Totally. There's a bit of chatting, a bit of questions about the gap to our rivals and stuff like that. I think like if we, I mentioned it in the Wednesday video, and I think you maybe alluded to it earlier, McBride, yourself, but you did. But if you go back as far as your memory can go, certainly this century, Celtic have always had 2 strikers, like 2 main guys, Stokes and Hooper, Sutton and Hartson, I don't know, Griffiths and somebody, There's always, Kyogo and Giakoumakis, Dyson, when we've always had like 2 centre forwards kind of in the mix. And at the moment we don't. Kyogo's very much unreplaced. So if we genuinely replace Kyogo and Kuhn, like properly in the team, I don't think there's any gap erosion between us and Rangers. Where we are is we're kind of behind the 8 ball, and like Kyogo was quite settled in quite quickly at the club. Kuhn took 6 months, but then when he settled in was amazing. And with whoever we bring in, they're at square one, they're at 0. They're not settled in, they're not on fire, they've not fulfilled their potential yet. So I think that's the only kind of detraction that we have in the situation, that we actually spend some proper money on some proper players. But I do think that it's going to be hard to maintain those levels coming into this year. We've signed the Simpson Pussy Boy. It doesn't feel like we're going to be buying any midfielders. I don't see any links to midfielders whatsoever, which fine. Another left back's been linked this week that we mentioned before. But I don't think there's any like gap erosion necessarily. But what I do think for Hearts in particular, I tipped them for second the day they appointed Derek McInnes, or the day it might not have been appointed, but it was all but confirmed certainly. So I think they'll just do a stellar job of beating everyone else in the league. Like, I just don't think they'll mess about. They've already beat Aberdeen. Who else have they got to worry about outside of Glasgow? Probably nobody. So I just think like there'll be pressure put on the team. And I don't think that's a signal of like the gap changing or whatever. It's just this team hasn't really been put under pressure. Well, a lot of them haven't. Some of them have, like McGregor's and whatever, But so it'll be like a test of something different rather than a gap being closed down. It's just those players are then in a different environment. Do they still stand up and hit the same levels? That's kind of what's yet to be seen for it. Anything else to say on any of that, McBride, in terms of squad and recruitment? And
yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like first round, like the Rangers dropped points, so like, and it wasn't really a convincing performance or whatever against Motherwell, but there's activity and everything happening there, and you need to wait and see what happens at the end of the window. Plus, we've got an upcoming encounter. So last season, what worked pretty well too was that first Glasgow derby was Parkhead 1-3-0, I think. So we built that gap, and even although we never really, as Williams commented on, we never really had a good record against the other half for the rest of the season, we'd built a big enough gap that didn't really matter in the end, So, but you don't really want to be in a scenario where you end up getting behind. And that, I think there's like, without over sort of egging it with the other teams and stuff, there's definitely been a wee bit of an improvement in terms of what they're doing themselves with transfers and stuff like that as well. So, we've got to be careful in that, because I don't think that we've put ourselves in a position where it's insurmountable for other teams. We've kind of left the door ajar. And if somebody walks through that, then all of a sudden we might be having a chat later on in the season to go, well, hang on a minute, right? We're not quite dominating this league or whatever here. We've left ourselves short of firepower, or like touchwood, but like remember like that point when Idah got injured and then he done some sort of superhero act and got himself back within like 2 weeks by eating eels or something. He was supposed to be out for the season, but like. Yeah. After and it would be probably quite unlucky after getting Jota injured and stuff like that. But I don't feel that confident in the attacking three or whatever at the moment. Like, it just feels as if it's like we're just like overly reliant or whatever on Idah. So you need some options in there. You need some help in there, I think, and that might be another good reason to move Nygren up there, right? Because he got goals and assists and everything for North Island. So, if you can get him in the mix and get him 10 to 15 goals or whatever across season, then that starts to help with that situation, I suppose, as well. So,
I think the Gren will do better in this game further up the pitch, because at Paradise, like, it just felt like between him, McGregor and Tatati, they just had so much ground to cover when they got on the ball, because they were all able, willing, and maybe told to get the ball deep. So they're having to travel the whole blooming pitch in possession of the ball, give or take, or slice it through for someone, which isn't exactly easy. Whereas if we do start with Nygren in the front three, then you get him on the ball and then we play from there. He's a guy that can cross, that can play balls for AJ on the underlap, the overlap or whatever, set someone off the edge of the box, try and find Idah and cross your fingers he gets on the end of it. And This is a game. So the chat's been really 50-50. I've seen people in the chat saying Idah's going to blank this weekend. I've seen people saying double or hat trick. How do you feel about Idah this weekend? Do you think he'll make up for last weekend, or do you think it'll be another deja vu?
Well, I did watch the game last weekend, so I don't feel confident in the moment, I must admit. I don't know. I think he is like himself, as most strikers are, obviously, but he's a bit of a confidence guy himself. So you kind of feel as if like maybe Brendan's like try to, you're the main man, you're the main striker and everything now, try to give him that position and stuff like that. And then, but he's not, he never took that chance sort of last weekend. He like, I wouldn't say he missed any absolute sitters, but you know, the one where he hit the post, you think, well, you should be scoring with that chance. And his all-round play, just not good enough, I don't think. Like that's, I mean, I don't, what are we hoping for? Are we hoping that the goals are enough? Are we hoping that because he's a young guy that he can improve? I don't know. And I feel like because he's a big guy and he does have a wee bit of strength about him, he's kind of into that role of he's got a bit of physicality and stuff like that. But when you watch like the Aston Villa away game, like he was quite good at doing some other stuff there, you know, like running down that channel, and he gave them loads of issues. And you thought they're a Premier League team, you know.
Yeah.
So the role that we're putting him into doesn't necessarily like always like suit his strengths either, if that makes sense. So there we go. But I'm not personally, I'm not confident, but like, you know, I think I've kind of gone from somebody who was at that point saying, yeah, we need to sign Idah, and you know, he scored the winner against Rangers, and we're all getting a bit carried away and stuff like that. And then we paid the big money, and then everybody's then judging him by the transfer fee and stuff like that, rather than just judging him against like how many goals he scored. So
yeah, I'm mixed. I hope he can get a goal at the weekend to kind of get himself up and running. Quinny, I think, scored against Aberdeen before, so if he does come off the bench, Adam Idah might be watching the back of his shirt quickly. Maybe Yamada could make an appearance, I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely question marks that are needing answers against them in this Aberdeen match. Because I do think whatever team plays against Aberdeen is more than likely the team that's going to start the home leg of the Champions League qualifier. It's got to be what Brendan sees as the best team at this point. Maybe this defence might evolve with the signing of JSP. But yeah, outside of that, I think that's going to be the plan of attack. This is the Sorare Scsc, so every week when me and McBride are getting on to preview the team, it's normally with a view of getting some fantasy football lineups out. I've got kind of 2.5 teams rolling out this weekend. I had Adam Montgomery in a team. He scored an OG. I don't know if you know that, for Livingston, which is horrible. Now, the last coaching gig I had was at Glasgow Uni, and there was a player in the team at that time before I left called Keelan Adams, and he's made it all the way from essentially non-league to Premier League, and he got an assist last weekend for Falkirk, so congratulations, Keelan. And it's Montgomery versus Keelan Adams this weekend for my gallery. I've got them in separate teams. Nice. They're both playing fullback. Maybe one of them can do all right. Put all the Celtic boys together. We've got Braga in a team with a wee Maeda, and the bottom team there with Montgomery in it. I'm not holding my breath on much happening there. It's just kind of odds and sods, bits and pieces. But I had some fun builds with the classic teams, McBride. I had a lot of full Celtic teams going out. I've got one that's not really. But see, when I realised I had this Alistair Johnson and this Tierney that both have the spinny wheel behind them, I was like, oh, I have to put them together. It just feels quite satisfying to see. But that's like my big Celtic team, big XP, Captain Negren. Hopefully he can do a Jota top type score or whatever for me. But I built this team with the members earlier. This is like a bad batch. This is all Celtic players not at Celtic that will play this weekend. So we've got Bainzo, we've got Laggers, we've got big CJ, big Julian, Tomoki Iwata. Kyogo looks to be on the bench. But we've got Idaguchi, we've got Rocco Vata expected to play, and Big O up front. So I've had some fun with my teams this week with the Celtic collections.
Nice. I've got to get it out there. I've got a confession to make, Quinny.
Oh no, you've not done it. You tried to give me stick for Max Aarons last week.
What's that?
You tried to give me penalties for Max Aarons last week.
I didn't. I done it pre-transfer. I bought Antman's first card.
So did I. Max Aarons.
I'm going to have to play I'm going to have to play him now as well, because I think in terms of the sort of expected goals and all that type of stuff, like Rangers expected goals against Dundee at home is like 3.3, which is like actually pretty massive in world football. You'll not see much more than that. So it's like fancy they'll score a few goals. So yeah, I've had to play him. So, but he's in a go-ahead Eagles wrapper, so will not be opened as a Rangers shirt. I will not be having any Blue Rangers shirts in my gallery whatsoever, and that's the end of the story. But
Did you see my card opening from the weekend?
No, was it?
I won a Raskin on the card draw, so I got it to like tell me. I used the options on the thing, and it told me it was like Scottish. So you can use when you pull the craft. I'll show you the screen for anyone that's not done it. But when you get to the page, you get 10 cards drawn at random, and then you can get some clues, and you need to pick one at random. Whatever one you pick, you keep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I picked what league and tell me the nationality, and it said SPFL Belgium. So I was like, this is 1,000% Raskin or Engels. So I'll click on it gladly. And it was Raskin. Thankfully, Raskin's twice the price of an Engels these days. So
did you punt it?
Punted it, yeah. And I was going to buy Engels for half the price and then keep the change. But what I ended up doing was I bought a Premier League limited team to go after that hot streak with the Raskin money. So I turned Raskin into a team of Premier League players, which was all right. But Raskin I got pulled last week to my shock and horror.
I know. It's going to happen at some point. Like you're just going to win a really good card or whatever, and it'll come out and it'll be like SPFL, and then it'll be the Rangers crest, and you're like, oh no,
yeah,
don't do that to me. But I think so. In terms of how the game's going to play out, I think it will still be a pretty good game for us. Like obviously, sort of fantasy football wise, because Aberdeen will sit in, and obviously if we get a lot of possession and the sort of defenders and stuff like that, the big guy up front might cause some problems for Scales and Carter Vickers in terms of duels and stuff. I suspect what might happen is Carter Vickers will try and take care of him, and then he'll leave the ball playing stuff to Scales. I'm not saying he's great at that or whatever, but like that, like you look at the scores last weekend, and Scales was one that done the big score and stuff like that at home. So getting the ball out to Tierney. Now I think obviously if that does happen, they play that sort of containing game, then Johnson and Tierney are going to get forward, aren't they? So they're going to be all the kind of key guys there. You've exhausted your battery, Quinny. That's because you were as on time as Celtic's recruitment this summer.
Yeah, that was it, man. Had to happen at some point, eh? One of those days, we're on the camera all day.
Aye, and then I suppose it's going to come down to then basically, can we break them down? Can we maybe get a moment of magic early on so that the game plan's not really sort of working so well and they've got to come out at some point, or do we just manage to get some goals, some set pieces, or just create some chances? But I think against St Mirren we did actually create some chances, so I suppose that's one of the positives, but not much use if you don't take them, I suppose, is it? So
no, totally not. So yeah, I hope it's a good game for us as well. Could be some good scoring, like you said. Defense could score off the charts. I'm always nervous on Scales, Trusty. I had no idea I was going to play last week. Hope he plays this week. But when you're talking there, I'm thinking, maybe does he want? I think he'll want Scales for muscle in that kind of context. I think he'll want Scales just for no nonsense. Nobody's bullying him. Scales. No one's putting Scales on the deck. No one's beating him in the air. So I think he is probably quite safe. And yeah, man, just need a couple of goals. Hopefully Dyson can open his account. That was a big chance missed at the weekend for him. It was a real flashback to OG Dyson, wasn't it? Rather than prime Dyson that we got for spells last year. And on Adam Idah, he had 3 BCMs last game. I would say the header from Tierney, it's not a pure sitter, right? But for a striker, it is a big chance missed. It is a statistical sitter. I think you're expecting a guy like that makes a good header contact on a cross at the front post to make the keeper do a bit more for it. But yeah, if we can create some chances, hopefully they just falls for us a little bit better and we get some more goals. Last thing we always end these shows off with is a score prediction. I don't remember what we did last week on score predictions, but I liked, I think it was Postman Pat's comment in the chat, and I'm going to echo it with my score prediction. And I'm sure it was him, but he said, we're going to batter Aberdeen 1-0. I think that's what's going to happen. We'll batter them 1-0.
I like it. After watching them against Hearts, I honestly wasn't really that impressed. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go 2-0 Celtic, and I think I think we'll dominate the ball, and they'll play that certain sort of style again, and it worked in that specific game. But I think we've got enough to break them down. But I'm still overall just a wee bit sort of a bit worried about it across the season. All right, but even if we do get through the Champions League qualifiers and stuff, but it's not going to get any easier after that, is it? But
No.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We want to make sure we're in the draw, because you know what it is. Like, we're talking about all this stuff and all this, transfer stuff and frustration. But see that morning where they're doing the Champions League draw, or whatever, or that evening we're doing the Champions League draw, and we're in there, like everybody will be buzzing. So, let's hope that we do the business next couple of games, and we maybe get some business done, and we're feeling a bit better about it. So.
Let's hope so, indeed. If you are watching us live, thanks to everyone that's tuned in tonight. Our first goal with the live shows is always to get to 67 likes. We're not quite there yet. There's been over 100 of you here with us live tonight, which is good on YouTube. And once we get through 67, the next like goal is to get to 88. And then after that, we're just soaring into the sky. So no matter when you've watched the show tonight, if you have enjoyed it, please do hit the like button. It really does mean a lot to us. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe for more. We do this show every Thursday, normally on time. And feel free to catch it after we've been live. I'll be back live tomorrow for the weekly kind of catch-up show. And thanks for all the support, guys. It's been a great week. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the weekend. I'll see you tomorrow, McBride. A pleasure as always, mate. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Short and sweet. Love it, mate. Take care, everyone.
Long day.